Um, it's interesting though, this conversation. Teams like the Chiefs, obviously with more success than the Packers so far. The Packers, teams have moved on from these guys. You talked about Tyreek Hill. They let him walk, sign with the Dolphins. The Chiefs
And
have
they won a
obviously
Super Bowl.
been in and won Super Bowls instead of giving Hill the bag. So I think that's the point of this, right? Are you gonna, with the cost of wide receivers, which is now becoming the second most expensive position in football, do you give it to one guy? I know that we had some offline chat that you can shut one guy down with the right cornerback. We've seen Jair neutralize Justin Jefferson, completely take him out of the game before. So, then who else are you throwing the ball to? I guess fortunately for the Vikings, they probably feel pretty good about Jordan Addison. But they just lost KJ Osborne. And then I don't really know who they have. I know we kind of covered their roster a few weeks ago. But nobody else is really coming to mind that is that third threat for them right now. And TJ Hawkinson is
That's where I was going to
also,
go, TJ.
But he's going to miss the first few weeks of the season, if not the first half of the season.
Right.
So I don't know.
Okay. So like the Chiefs won it last year, right? Rice. I think they did end up. Well, they had McCole Hardman, right? But he was with the Jets, right, for the first handful of games, and then they signed him. He got the game winning touchdown, at the end for what it's worth. I won them the Super Bowl, right? So, they basically did that, with, giving away Tyreek Hill. So they've shown that they can have it with top tier quarterback play, right? You look at the Packers from 2010, 2011, just loaded, right? Everywhere, tight end, wide receiver, spreading the ball around. I think actually the only game they ended up losing that year, right before they lost to the Giants in the playoffs, was against the Chiefs. So I would like to take more swings, get more draft capital. Now, this is totally biased. Totally understand. Love what the Packers do. Love how they operate. I'm fully bought in. But I can see also too on the other side as well. Like look at, it hasn't really panned out really well too much for the Titans, right? That all depends on how Will Levis does this year. And I know they just got Calvin Ridley, and he's a speedster, right? So he's going to be really good. But like the Eagles traded for AJ Brown. I think they just signed him to a 3-year, 32 million average, 96 million total. And they went to a Super Bowl. Now, granted, they didn't win, but he was really impactful in doing that for them. And I know they had really good play from Hurts, have one of the best offensive lines. We'll see this year without Jason Kelce as the center, etc. But so there's some of this back and forth. Like they did it. They went to a Super Bowl. Chiefs gave away their top wide receiver, went to the Super Bowl and won it, right? So it's interesting back and forth.
Yeah, and I think people are going to listen to this and you're like, well, you wouldn't have given that number one wide receiver that contract. So does that mean that you would have moved on from Devontae Adams? The answer is no to that, and the reason is you were projecting that you were entering the last 2 or 3 seasons of Aaron Rodgers' era in Green Bay. I think that's just a totally different season of NFL fandom for where we're at. Obviously, we're a young, rebuilding, ready to go contending team in 2024 and beyond, hopefully. But you keep a guy like that on the roster to make sure that Aaron Rodgers gets into the Super Bowl. And there's been a lot of criticism for that, right? We didn't get Aaron Rodgers something additional to Devontae Adams that would have pushed us over the edge. So I certainly see, the conflict there. But here we are, 1 year removed from a down season, moving on. Well, 2 years now, but it was really last year was the rebound, right? So really only a 1 year hiatus. And now we're all really excited about the receiving core and plethora of weapons that we have all over the offensive side of the ball. So, a couple other interesting things in this conversation, right? The Packers, especially last week, they were linked in a Bleacher Report article to CeeDee Lamb, podcasters, and conversation all over Twitter's. Would we get T. Higgins? The problem is, for me, why I hate those particular type of moves. I mean, I think it's one thing to retain your own guy, but when you have to give up serious draft capital, a great player and a pick, 2 premium top 100 picks, plus you got to pay the $35 million, plus, I'm out on that altogether. So CeeDee Lamb can stay in Dallas or go somewhere else. T. Higgins can stay in Cincinnati or go somewhere else. I'm fine without those moves.